Since I got the LCR45, my old LC meter is no longer needed. Nevertheless, I thought I'd do a quick review before moving it on. It's an important bit of gear for the electronics and radio experimenter. Variable capacitors rarely have their maximum and minimum capacitance marked. If you've got a meter like this, you can go through your junk box and find whichever capacitor suits the project that you're building. Then there's inductors. There are times where you might be salvaging inductors and not know its inductance. A meter like this again can help. You might be building a project and it might call for a certain number of turns on a toroid. But how do you know the inductance is actually right? Especially if you're substituting different thickness wire. A meter like this can help. It uses 4 AA batteries, or you can use external power. This is the user manual. I'll include a link to it down the bottom. The writing in the manual isn't the greatest, but most of the time you should be able to work out what they're trying to say. Especially if you're experimenting with radio, it's important that a meter like this can go down to low values. A few picofarads for capacitance and a fraction of a microhenry for inductance. First of all though, we've got to calibrate it. Now it's reading 0. We'll try some low value components, such as this capacitor, which is marked 4.7 picofarad. It's reading 5.97, so maybe a little bit high. Here's another one, marked 100. 103. Here we've got one which says 1.5. This will be a real test. And it's reading just over 2, so it's reading very slightly high, but pretty good for these very small values, especially for a cheap instrument like this. Now we'll try a larger capacitor. This is an electrolytic at 470 microfarads. Well, that doesn't look good. Aha, just press the high C button and it's reading 490 microfarad. So, very close. This says 100 and it's displaying 103. Now electrolytic capacitors can be a fair way off. Their tolerance can be quite wide. It really doesn't matter in the majority of applications, but these two indications show that it's pretty close. Now for some inductors. This one here reads 4.7 microhenry. It's reading about 3.9, so a bit lower than 4.7 as marked. Just get some more. This one says 3.3. It's reading 2.66. We'll go lower still. This one says 2.2. And it says 1.5. Now this one is a bit of a test. It says 0.47 microhenry and it says 0, so that's wrong. So what we'll do, just short them together and we'll 0 it again and we'll put the 0.47 on. It's a bit better, still reading low, 0.25 and 0.26. So its accuracy definitely suffers with small values of inductance. But we'll go again back to one of the values we looked at before. This one I've got is 3.3. And this time it's spot on. This one I've got reads 0.65. that on and it's about 0.5. So down at the low end it isn't accurate, but above 3.3 microhenry or so it does become accurate, but you do need to zero it first. This is a larger value of inductor. It could either be 470 microhenry or 47 microhenry. Sometimes with these it's hard to distinguish some of the colours, like black from brown. Another application where a meter like this can be useful. It's reading 444 microhenry, so definitely marked as 470, and this would be within tolerance. And this can be handy if you are building some of the cheaper kits. Quality control on some of the components isn't all that great, so it's sometimes a good idea to measure capacitors and inductors before you solder them in. The LC200A is a fairly basic instrument. Nevertheless, I found it useful. It would be a good purchase for someone starting in electronics or radio experimenting. A link to it, including the instruction manual, is provided below. Because I've now got the LCR45, I don't need the LC200A as well. Therefore, I'm giving it away to one lucky viewer. If you live in Australia and tinker with electronics and radio, let me know why this meter will be useful to you. Send your entry to VK3YE@qsl.net and in 200 words or less explain what project you're going to be building in the new year that would make this meter useful for you. And here's second prize, a little transistor tester that also measures L and C. That's VK3YE@qsl.net in 200 words or less for Australian viewers by the 2nd of January.